I was gonna be so mad if they left this season without showing the fate of Shishui. I am so freaking happy. The moment that I seen that doc, I'm like, it's gonna be Shishui. And I heard her voice and I'm like, oh my gosh, Shishui, she's still alive, she's still there. I was so freaking happy. Although I'm a little bit disappointed in the fact that she's leaving. I was really hoping that she'd come to the rear palace and she would be Shishui and Jinshi would see her but go, oh well, haven't seen Zoulin around in a long time, all that kind of stuff. You know, just something where he's playing dumb just to allow her to be there. But it makes more sense to the politics and everything. This girl can't be there. She literally has to leave. She's going to die if she doesn't. So I guess it kind of keeps true to that whole thing. But it seems like she's leaving overseas, which really sucks. It kind of makes me believe that she's going to be gone. And maybe like way down the road, there's going to be something overseas that gets involved with the kingdom. And then she's going to pop up. That's all I can think of. And so that makes me believe that she's not going to be around for a while. It sucks. Now, I do have a theory because we did see that Zoulin does get picked up by somebody. And so I'm wondering if possibly this would be very convenient. But so Zoulin being involved with somebody's sister that was in the rear palace and them being a very important person could be somebody that is in a location that, again, Zoulin can end up joining them. Shishui can end up joining them, and then Zoulin and Shishui can be happy together. Because even Zoulin's like, "Oh, I miss being around you two." There's so much in this episode around Maomao really realizing that she's sad. I think that's a big crucial part of this. Like, so much emotion has been awakened in Maomao's character. Obviously, a lot of her feelings for Jinshi is sparking up in this entire episode. And again, are these people my friends? Having some sort of connection and some sort of bond with people that is finally kicking her going, oh, wow, yeah, I am sad about this. Oh, yeah, I am unhappy about losing them. Yes, I do miss being around them. I don't know what they think of me, but yeah, this kind of hurts. Having that moment where that tear comes out and is like, ugh, and then she's saying that she hopes that they don't find Shishui's body. He's like, I don't know where I'm like, oh my gosh, feelings. But man, those kids coming back. That hit me so hard. That hit me so hard. The moment that she runs over those, I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm so glad that I was right about that, that she didn't poison them. She gave them medicine. That was the key word that was given there. I'm surprised that Maomao didn't pick up on it. I think Maomao subconsciously knew. I think she possibly knew. She was going to fulfill this role that she was supposed to do, but I think that she knew. I think there was a possibility there. But anyways, let's get into the episode proper. First off, we do have a sequel coming. That is great news. I kind of assumed it was going to happen because, let's face it, Apothecary Diaries is massive in Japan. This is something that is topping the charts across the board, TV broadcasts, streaming platforms. It's doing very, very well for them. So I kind of assumed they were going to have a sequel, but it's always happy to actually get the announcement. They've just claimed a sequel is coming. They haven't said season. It's the problem with a lot of these production companies. They like to kind of breadcrumb exactly what it is. They'll first say that something's coming, that something is being produced. Then in some cases they'll say this season, or they'll say it's a film, or it's an OVA, or it's a special. Right now it's just literally sequel. I would assume it's probably going to be another season, but for now, I want to keep it at that. I don't want to give people this information because it's very easy to do that, but I'm super excited that more is coming, and hope that they take their time. I'm loving it. Anyways, let's get into the episode proper. Episode 48. Let's jump into it. Opening up the episode with Jinshi and Maomao. Again, this really being a lot of emphasis where it seems like Maomao herself is both struggling with the loss, what her duty is, and additionally, yes, her feelings for Jinshi. Having Jinshi being scarred, you know, her pointing out the fact that, you know, you shouldn't get hurt out there because it's going to be trouble for everybody around you. You have your position now. Again, she knows what he is at this point. But yes, additionally, getting into Zoulin specifically. And the idea that he asks her, how close were you to Zoulin? And she's like, well, I'm not sure if we were friends. We had a lot of fun together. Me, her, and Zoulin, we had a lot of fun together, but I'm not sure if she feels like we're friends. But then having that moment where it does seem like, based on how Jinshi's talking, she's realizing, oh, he's talking as if she's gone. Like, she's gone. So what does that make her feel? It does seem like right here, it does feel like she's starting to realize I've lost somebody that's important, but I don't know what that feeling is. But then kind of pivoting to the idea of all that's left for me to do now is fulfill what she wanted me to do. She left me back there and said goodbye, but then she left something important to me. So I got to make sure that I do this one duty, which is to make sure these kids don't get thrown into a bonfire or something in a mass grave somewhere. Give them a proper burial. But yes, Jinshi goes to lay down, pulls her down with him. And then, yes, get to the idea of the scar on his face. And about the fact of losing some sort of value or some sort of worth. There was like an emphasis here where, yes, Maomao does acknowledge that Jinshi himself, when he's out in the palace, as he's the eunuch, every time he's walking around, everybody sees his beauty, but unfortunately, due to that beauty, nobody ever sees what's beyond it. They're distracted by the fact that he's just so gorgeous, and they just focus on purely that. They don't see the value inside of himself. So it is kind of concerning, the idea that he is now asking her, have I lost my value? He's basically assuming that all he is to her as well is just beauty. And so if he has this mark, then thus he has nothing to give her. And again, we've already established this point, this guy is totally into Maomao. Like, he is sold on her. So there's a concern there with everybody else seeing him as value in his appearance. Hopefully she doesn't see that as well. But no, she sees something in it. She says, no, this makes him more handsome. So there is an element here where it does seem like Maomao is finally being more honest about what she's seeing in front of her. That there is somebody here that she's attracted to. That there's some beauty in here. But she's also pointing out other things about him where it's not distracted by his beauty. It's not just his appearance that she's actually getting value in. But yeah, she points out the fact that he looks more handsome than ever. Dude loses it. I like that she gets the little flashback of the frog moment. She's like, oh crap, I think I know what this means. I think he's getting the frog back. Retreat, girl, retreat. He's like, oh, I have to stay calm because this is not really a good situation. Like, yeah, technically you have a bunch of dead children behind you. This is probably not the place to be doing that, Jinshi. Like, it's funny. It's funny, but at the same time, please not right now. Let's not do this romance stuff right now with a bunch of dead children behind you. I was really getting really annoyed by that whole aspect there, but yeah, I only need 30 minutes. I'm tired, but I only need 30 minutes to handle everything. But yes, they get interrupted, thankfully, by, yes, the children making noises. The moment that Maomao ran over there and she started ripping off the sheets, I'm like, yes, thank you. This is like one of those moments where I'm so happy that my predictions are correct. The fact that she said the medicine, the fact that she told Jinshi that, you know, once they die, don't kill them again. There was so much leading up to the fact that these kids had to be alive. And the moment that she ran over there and started checking the pulses, I started losing it. I got so emotional, like, of everything, the tragedy that is Shishui, all the death that is happening around them, all these of the Shi clan that may have not even been involved, all this death that's happening right now. Please let these children live. Please let these children live. And sure enough, the moment that she checked that one kid and she was alive, I'm like, I got so freaking emotion. Like, I think it's the importance of that from Shishui's perspective, that she wanted that. She wanted these kids to live. She went out of her way, did something very risky, all for the sake of making those children live. And yes, having Jinshi go get Surye, obviously she's the only one that's going to really know how to handle the situation. He goes out there, gets Surye, and he tells her the kids are alive, and she starts getting emotional too. I'm like, oh, no. And it was like, I had a big smile on my face, but at the same time, I was all emotional because, like, these kids have nothing to do with this. And it's like, so you want them to be spared. And again, it's just the nastiness that is that time period and that civilization is the idea that everybody has to die. Like, the Shi clan has to die because they were betraying the kingdom. They were going to overthrow the kingdom. To have them at least get out of it, at least have these children survive is just so fantastic. It was like, oh, it got me so bad. It got me so bad. I love it when Jinshi recalls what Shisui said, and he's like, I got tricked by the fox. I'm like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You got tricked, buddy. But that's when we get a cut forward. They just jump forward, like a little time skip. It wasn't that bad of a time skip. It kind of just goes to the fact that once Jinshi left that tent and they took care of those kids, there wasn't really much to really get into after this point, other than to kind of jump forward and kind of say where everybody kind of went. She never seen Jinshi after that point. Jinshi was busy dealing with the Shi clan. And as we find out later on, yeah, it does seem like the entire Shi clan was pretty much executed at that point. And the entire estate had to be taken over by them. And so Jinshi had a lot of paperwork to do. It's like a lot of stuff to manage, a lot of things to kind of shift around, management, all that kind of stuff. It's just a ton of work to do. But there's a few very, very interesting things that happened during that time. Yes, the first thing, confirmation, Gyokyo, Empress. I'm so happy for Gyoko. This girl, I'm so happy for her to get that position. Could not happen to a better girl. So happy for her. That wasn't just a complete slip of the tongue right there. In fact, she did have the prince. So that stuff's really cool. They've been kind of officially brought in. But very interesting, though, is what happened to the children. It gets in the fact that, yes, Kyo is apparently living in the Pleasure District. They said that because he lost his memory, he was the one that was the last one to wake up. And just like what Shirei said, there's side effects to this stuff. Paralysis, losing limbs, that kind of stuff. And additionally, yes, brain damage. He was the last one to wake up, and so he lost his memories. So what they were saying is specifically because he lost his memory, they wanted to have him live separate than the other ones. I don't get that. I'm not sure what that whole purpose was. I guess it's the aspect of him being confused, being around them, and constantly struggling with the fact that he doesn't recognize them or remember a lot of things they're talking about. I can sort of see why, but why the Pleasure District? Why the Pleasure District? Why there of all places? They said something to the effect that would be the most safest place for him to be. Okay, I guess. It technically is very high class. You know, you do have a lot of nobles and rich people coming there, so it has to kind of stay somewhat safe. It's close to the palace. I guess I could see a lot of reasons why it's safe, but why there? To be around Maomao, let's be honest. So that he can find lizards for Maomao, so she continued to figure out ways to restore the eunuch's wieners. I mean, frogs. Anyways, but what happened to the other 4 is the interesting thing. The other 4 children went to Ado. Now, Maomao says that she doesn't know why, but they were taken in by Lady Ado, including Surye, which that was fantastic too, to see that Surye is safe and that she's somewhere. And yeah, a lot of it to do with Surye is the fact that they did confirm that, yeah, this is technically somebody with the previous emperor's blood in her. So she's kind of important. But yeah, Maomao said that she doesn't understand why they were taken to Lady Ado. That goes right into my theory before. If Jinshi needs somebody to take these children in and wants to keep them safe, this is something important to Maomao. I want to fulfill this wish. And he probably wanted to fulfill the wish of Zoulin as well. There's probably a side of this that Jinshi wanted to do something for her. He wasn't able to save her, and this is something that he can fulfill. She even said, promise me you won't let them die again. So he might be doing this to fulfill her wish and do something for her, but also for Maomao. And the one person that Jinshi I can see trusting with these children would be Lady Ado. She's not in the inner palace. Doesn't have to worry about them being in the palace itself. I don't know. She could be. I don't think she's in the palace. Yeah, she left the rear palace. I'm pretty sure she probably left the entire palace. So she's off at some estate. But the reason why that's important is it goes back to my theory before. I still believe that Ado is Jinshi's mother. And if Ado is Jinshi's mother, he can probably confide in her, and she would essentially do that favor for him and take those children in. It would be a safe place to put those children and somebody that he can actually trust. So although Maomao is kind of confused by that, it technically does make sense to the theory that this is somebody that's important. Plus, with Surye specifically, yeah, I can see her technically being sort of an aunt to her, or step-grandmother. What would be the word there? Because yes, if my theory is correct that Ado, with the previous emperor, had Jinshi, then she's sort of a step-grandmother to Surye, because Surye is the grandchild of the emperor. I think I'm getting that all right. Anyways, it doesn't matter that much, but still a very interesting thing to choose to go to Lady Ado for that. Either way, I'm just happy those kids are going to be somewhere safe, and Surye could be safe. All that stuff is awesome. Interesting to see that Zoulin decided to stay in the rear palace. He didn't return to the Pleasure District after the child was born and she was brought in there and everything. He actually decided to stay there, and specifically in the same location too. He didn't move anywhere else. He decided just to stay there, which does kind of imply that he did like his time there, that he did feel useful there. And yeah, obviously, as Maomao puts it, he's incredibly talented. And there was a really stupid reason why he was kicked out. So sure enough, yeah, the current leadership's going to want to keep him around. They're not going to kick him back out. But I'm more curious to see if they will end up getting into why Zoulin decided to stay there. I don't know. I would figure that he'd just want to be wherever he could feel that he can help the most people. But there could be an idea here that Anshi herself may have confronted Zoulin and asked him to essentially help them to train people in the rear palace. I'm assuming that's probably what's going to end up happening. Because again, technically, we're still not quite sure who all is going to be in trouble for what happened with the Shi clan being in there. Because yes, Xin Lu was a part of that. And that was a lot to do with that whole part of the rear palace that was getting involved with the situation. But also as interesting, Maomao left the rear palace. She says due to the fact that, yes, Gyokyo had the child, it was all safe and everything, she just left. Like, my duty was done, and I just left. Again, kind of curious why she chose to do that, but again, it could be the fact that she just wants to get the heck out of there. These people are all crazy. I nearly died. I'm just going to go back to the Pleasure District. It's safer over there. But apparently they need her there. She's got to rebuild all the supplies that Zoulin made, so she's busy working there. seemingly still trying to figure out how to, again, regrow limbs to help out. I'm assuming she knows that Jinshi has a frog now. I'm not sure why she's still trying to help him with it, but she could be trying to help all the eunuchs. I think it's because she just figures it's like a challenge, and she really wants to do this to figure out how to make things regrow. As we find out, again, she goes to cut off her fingers, stops, and then Kyo comes in with a lizard. But anyways, cut to the current time, we have Sekiyu shows up, and she has a letter from Zoulin. Zoulin left 2 letters, one for Maomao and one for Shishui. And the one for Maomao got me so hurting. Again, because this is really where Maomao is finally realizing that these people are important to her, that they were friends. And the idea that as she's reading this letter from Zoulin, Zoulin's talking about, about how they disappeared and that she's about to be transferred out and she really enjoyed their time together and she really wants to see them again. And this is enough to really hit Maomao right in the gut. But I'm very curious, again, what she says here, and the idea that she says that she found somebody, they favored her, says a princess, gave me her clip, said that she liked me, and then introduced me to her younger sister, and now I'm working as her maid. And it briefly showed Zoulin as she was at the location, but it kind of went out of its way to cover her face, which I thought was weird. And also went out of its way to show that she took off her 2 ribbons to put on these new red ribbons. And I was trying to remember if there was at any point they showed somebody with those ribbons specifically. I think that was possibly the ones that Maomao got her, but it just seemed like that was a very purposeful scene that I'm kind of curious if I'm missing something there. I guess we'll probably see in the future. I'm hoping it's not the 2 envoys. I hope, for goodness sake, it's not the 2 envoys, which does make me wonder, did Maomao tell Jinshi that the envoys were there? I think that's sort of maybe a little, I mean, it could be an aspect that Maomao just doesn't care enough to get involved. And so she's like, everything that happened there, wipe from my mind. I don't care to get involved with any of that stuff. But me personally, I'm thinking if it was me, if I was Maomao, I'd be like, okay, so Jinshi, here's a few things that stood out to me that probably be important. And a lot of this stuff could end up being in Shishui's letter that she gave to Jinshi. She could have wrote in that letter the envoys were involved or whatever. She basically gave him a letter saying everything that could befall the empire going forward. It's probably a lot of stuff that the Shi clan had kind of plotted out. And yes, possible dealings with other nations. And again, including this group that could have been the envoy from another country, what they were doing. And so that could have been in there. Yeah, Alia and Alin, the envoys, they were involved. But still, Maomao, just say they were there. You might want to be careful around them. That's all I'm saying. We'll see though. But anyways, I'm kind of curious where Zoulin ends up being, and hopefully she doesn't disappear for too long. It feels like everybody just kind of split up, and they're all in different locations now, and it's kind of heartbreaking. But yeah, at the end there, when she starts to tear up, I'm like, oh, I don't want to see you and Shishui again. I'm like, oh, Zoulin, you're so pure. I like how it pointed out the fact that Sekiyu was like, I seen her and I was helping her out because she was alone, and you just can't not help her out. Like she's such a hard worker. You want to help her out. She's like the little sister that's trying very hard. But anyways, that's when we get to the scene where Jinshi shows up at the Verda's house, comes in there right when Maomao is about to cut off his finger. Coming in there, and he's super tired, has all these things to kind of deal with. Again, dealing with all the Shi clan stuff, how pretty much the entire Shi clan's been executed at this point. They have to take over their estates. And then, yes, gets into their promise. Oh yeah, you made a promise. You want to keep that? And then she realized, oh yeah, that's right. The hairpin. I'm sorry, I don't have it anymore. I'll find it in spring. Ugh. I might find it in spring. Again, referencing the fact that they might find her corpse after all this snow is melted. But then it gets in the second promise was to hear him out before reacting. And that's where it's going to get into, yes, Jinshi admitting who he is. Which at this point, yes, he realizes this is kind of pointless. Maomao knows. But it goes further than that, the fact that once he realizes that, he decides to pretty much make his move on her and show his affection for her. Which, again, gets in that whole element where I think Maomao at this point is starting to realize that she is attracted to Jinshi, but she just doesn't understand it. And so even as he's trying to make his moves in order to trigger something, he goes to kiss her neck. And she's got like the most disinterested look on her face, like, what are we doing? You know that some saliva is poisonous. This is kind of gross. It's kind of wrong. Would you think that would be something she would be totally into? Oh yeah, you think it's poisonous? You want to check it out? And so he gets mad and chops her on the neck. Oh my gosh, that was just so wrong. She's like, stop, why are you biting me? And then he makes the most smoothest move that somebody could possibly make to Maomao. Are you hiding poison inside of your mouth? Goes to kiss her, and then they get interrupted again. Jinshi's starting to talk like Maomao. He's just talking about poisons all the time. You have some poison inside of you that you wanna swap with me. It's like so wrong. But again, it's still showing signs here that Maomao is sort of being receptive of this, because that's sort of been my biggest sort of conflict that I've had with Maomao and Jinshi's relationship, is that I've never felt that Maomao has been ever romantically interested in Jinshi. Jinshi is obviously head over heels for her, but I've never felt that Maomao is. And yes, with that whole scene showing Maomao back at the Pleasure District when she was very young and crying and nobody responding to her, and her losing sort of a lot of her sense of emotion, or being able to express herself, or understanding emotion, I felt like that was kind of the confirmation there of, oh yeah, this girl's broken. This girl has a little bit of a break somewhere that's not establishing relationships and love. Again, with their relationship with Shishui and Zoulin, and her finally breaking down in tears, realizing that she's disconnected from them and she's lost them. I hope they don't find Shishui's body. She doesn't want to accept the idea that she's dead. I think right there, she just doesn't want that confirmation. I just want to be left in mystery. I don't want to find out that she's dead. Even though by all accounts right now, she does believe that Shishui's dead. Jinshi said that. But then they said they haven't found her body. Well, maybe she is alive. Don't find the body. She's slowly starting to connect things here. And right here, she's looking at the scar and she's once again telling herself, oh yeah, he is really beautiful. He is really handsome. Again, she is attracted to him. But it still hasn't quite crossed that threshold, or that line where she's finally saying, I love him, or I really want to be with him, or I'm somehow attracted to him in any way. It's sort of this element where she is sort of discovering that. But anyways, they get interrupted. They go to kiss, and he goes to kiss her, and they get interrupted. It didn't look like she was unsettled by the kiss. He just was going in there. She looked a little shocked, but it looked like she was going to accept it. But then, yes, Kyo has to show up and ruin the whole thing. I'm being more receptive of it. I think it's a lot to do with the fact that this season has been so strong with Jinshi's character. His character has developed so freaking much for me. But yeah, then he falls asleep on her lap, and she continues to grind her herbs. Before we cut over to the final scene where Shishui shows up, I'm so freaking happy. She's alive. I'm so freaking happy, dude. The moment I heard that voice, I'm like, I'm so freaking happy. But specifically, yes, she goes to barter, do exactly what she said that she might do. Barter off the hairpin. And yes, as she holds it up, it has the mark where the bullet would have hit. Exactly where I was saying. It was right there. The bullet hit. There was no blood. Sure enough, it hit the hairpin. Massive luck right there. So she survived. She's bartering off the hairpin just like she said she might do. And yes, additionally says that her name is Tamamo, saying that it's, yes, in reference to jade and seaweed, pointing out the idea that it sounds like she's blessed by the sea. And so she says, yeah, that sounds right. I think it'd be fun to see what's across the sea. And that's where we're leaving it. Apparently, she's just going to travel across the sea and go to some other location. And again, I kind of assume that she can't really technically stay in that kingdom, so it makes sense. I just figured that she would go in another direction besides across the sea. So it's probably going to be one of those things where eventually at some point she could show back up, travel a little bit, come back, and then pop up. Or again, there might be some overseas country that might get involved with them at some point, and then she pops up again. Either way, I'm just happy to see that she's alive. I was going to be so mad if they left the season with that still question mark sitting there. But yeah, like overall, really good ending for the season. Kind of wrapped up everything nicely. We got currently set up the idea of the Emperor right now has Gyoko at his side. They have a prince. The child's been born. It does seem like it's leaving a little bit on the line about what Jinshi's going to do. Again, it really did feel like with the whole situation with the Shi clan and him stepping forward with the personal guard, it felt like he was sort of stepping out in the limelight, and that was going to cause some sort of problem. But it does seem like the Emperor is still established there. And I think that's probably the case there because the Emperor has this child now, and that child is now the new prince. There really isn't a necessity for the Jinshi to kind of step forward, which, yes, technically for an overall story kind of makes it a little more easier for Jinshi to be hanging out with Maomao all the time. I think the moment that Jinshi does take the throne, it sort of does kind of limit how free we can be with the characters. So having him still being on the sideline and not the actual emperor and stepping up onto the throne does technically make sense there. But I think eventually that's going to come to the forefront. It could be an aspect where Jinshi completely gives up the throne, cuts his hair, becomes a new person, and just leaves it all behind. That could be a route they take. But there could be a moment where, yes, something happens to the emperor or something, which that would just really suck. They have at some point the emperor, and it would have to be the child too. Something happens to them, and then Jinshi is have to force to take the throne. But I don't think it's going to go that direction. I think they've pretty much set up everything there. which does make me kind of sad because this does lead to the idea that they might not have the consorts sort of be a focus anymore if they have a prince and they're established with that. I mean, the emperor could still be betting the consorts. He could still be visiting Li Hua. He could still at some point, way in the future, hopefully, visit Li Shu. But I guess my hope here at this point would be the fact that because he's established this with Kyokyo, she has had the prince. That means that Li Shu is probably going to be let free again. Maybe be sent off to somewhere else. Li Hua is going to be sent off to somewhere else. But that sort of takes away a lot from some of the better stories that I've had in this series, which was a lot of the stuff in, the consorts and the rear palace, all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. We'll see where the story goes from here. I'm kind of curious where it could go. I think they implied something with so slight spoilers here if you don't like what they say in the announcements of the next adaptation. In the announcement, they showed the trailer, and it specifically showed the letter that Zoulin gave Jinshi. So that makes me believe that possibly what was ever in that letter is going to be the next focus. And again, I think a lot of that's going to be sort of the plots that have been already set in place and undoing those plots. And a lot of that can be around, again, the envoys that were involved with the situation and all that kind of stuff. But we'll see. I'm super, super excited for the next season. It's going to be rough not having this on a weekly basis. I've just been absolutely loving this show. I think the previous episode of this episode was episode 23 of the second season, or 47, was easily the best episode. Just everything around Shishui was just so freaking great. I think the episode with Jinshi going up against the fake Zoulin was incredible as well, because that was a massive growth point for Jinshi, that entire episode. But overall, this season gave us some incredible, incredible scenes, and easily put it up there as possibly my favorite anime of the season. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my weekly impressions of this series. I greatly appreciate you guys' support. The outpour of support every single week has been fantastic. It's been easily one of my best performing videos of the week for impressions video. So I greatly appreciate you guys' support, and I'm glad you guys joined me for the ride. But until it returns, hope you guys stick around, subscribe to the channel, check out my other impressions video as I do other series. And additionally, if you like this content, you want to support the channel more, I have memberships down below. Greatly appreciate it. Support the channel. Y'all take care.